Savvy Business Radio, drawing out the best from our guests with our host, Christina Nichman.
Our guest today is Jacob Koo, a lifelong entrepreneur. His belief in the potential of virtual reality was the impetus for founding VRt Ventures, beginning with the idea and execution of turning celebrated museum exhibitions into virtual reality experiences. Now everyone can take part in great art around the world. Find out more at vrtventures.art. Hi, Jacob. Welcome to Savvy Business Radio. How are you this evening?
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, you betcha. It was such a blessing when I heard that Austin invited you to come on over. And I told you before the interview, we have a number of folks listening in that are great enthusiasts in the art world. And you guys have offered a awesome way for people to connect with artwork, the great art pieces around the world without having to leave their home. And VRt Ventures, did I say it right?
Yes, VRt Ventures. Absolutely.
VRt Ventures offers a virtual reality experience where you can bring transformative art anywhere and experience it. And this is really, really amazing because recently a good friend of mine has a daughter who's, I think, 2.5, 3 years old. And she found out that she is madly in love with art. And she found out because she brought her to France, the Louvre, and she said, oh, we're going to be in and out of this museum. She's going to be, hollering and not wanting to be here. She could not get enough of it. And now she wants to bring her kid to the museum all the time. But we all know that costs a bit of money. So, but you've offered a great solution. Share with the audience a little bit about your backstory and how you came to creating VRt Ventures.
Sure. So I'm basically a lifelong entrepreneur. I've been involved in a lot of different industries, and I was looking for something new. And I entered the world of mobile apps. But I realized a little too late that I was late to the party. Because if you remember the iPhone, there was not really a thing called mobile apps until the iPhone. And the iPhone launched in 2007 or 2008. And so that was exactly almost 10 years ago from today. And maybe in the beginning, there was a great opportunity there. But as time passed, you realize that today there are 3 million apps available to be downloaded.
Wow.
That number is humongous. How can you possibly make an app that people will ever find with 3 million choices available to them? So through that process, I began to look into virtual reality because a friend of mine was talking about virtual reality, but I didn't really know what it was. But once I went to Best Buy, bought a Samsung Gear, like a VR device. Then I had to buy a Samsung phone. It was a pretty big investment. And when I started exploring it, I realized that the potential was really amazing. But the problem was that there was no good content really yet on those VR devices. So I looked at that as like a very, very huge opportunity. I have a little bit of a background in art, and I'm a huge, huge fan of art, museums, galleries in general. So I started thinking along that route, and I came to the conclusion that capturing celebrated museum exhibitions in virtual reality would be a solution and content that is useful. It's not just some type of game that you're playing, but it's something that actually has a utility, because obviously in the real world, people visit museums and view museum exhibitions. And now we're making that possible for the whole planet. So no matter where you are, they could be in India, China, Korea, wherever they might be, they could visit New York City, Los Angeles, Paris, just by utilizing a virtual reality device. And one other thing regarding why museum exhibitions, a lot of people are not fully aware, but museum curators sometimes take well over 5 years to plan one museum exhibition.
Wow.
It's a very complicated process. And after preparing for 5 years, the museum exhibition is up for approximately 4 months before it's gone forever. So we're able to, utilizing virtual reality technology, take advantage of making sure that we archive it properly, as well as sharing it with the planet.
Wow. This is so many applications. And I love the education factor, because how many children across the United States and the world have missed out on the great opportunity to view the great artists of the world. And now they get to experience it for themselves through your wonderful virtual reality tool. And I think you're right. I think you're totally right, Jacob. I've heard recently, not just like you, I've not heard much about virtual reality, but just about a month or two ago, my friend was talking like it was the best thing since sliced bread. She's like, I got this virtual reality gear and I'm like playing with it all night long. I'm like, really? Is it kind of like the hologram? She's like, well, not quite, but it's really, really cool. But yeah, it's very elementary right now, but it is in the groundbreaking entry slot where a lot of businesses or people can use applications for educational purposes, growth purposes. I see a lot of explosion opportunities in that realm. What have you seen opening up into this realm as where it might go in the future?
Well, you could look at it as virtual reality today is quite similar to what the internet looked like in 1997. We all remember dial-up modem. I mean, imagine if your employer or your company or your office was still using dial-up modem. Everyone would go crazy. But things have advanced in the 20 years since that time. And that's what's going to happen with virtual reality as well. Virtual reality is the ability to feel like you are somewhere that you're physically not. So we can go to the extreme, which is movies like Keanu Reeves' The Matrix or Westworld on HBO. That's the extreme. And it actually is possible for things like that to occur, where 10, 15, 20, 50 years from now, virtual reality will literally make you feel like you are somewhere that you're not. In the meantime, until that day comes, we're just going to have to accept that, technology, of course, is going to improve, but each step of the way, you'll be able to feel more and more like that you are somewhere, that your body is not.
Wow. So one day we might actually have the Star Trek hologram. Like that would be totally awesome.
No doubt.
I mean, how many? Yeah, I can't wait. I mean, I've wanted to do space travel. What better way to not have to risk our lives to explore the planets and everything else in the deep sea without having to, worry about taking all this training and such to become an astronaut or a deep sea diver. So share some of the ideas. Like you got started. You had this idea for virtual reality. How did you come to be a actual reality from a time that was an idea to the time that you got it launched?
Oh, I see. The actual idea came, I remember the date, December 23rd, 2016.
Wow.
That was the date that we got the idea. We were playing with the idea, let's say, for like a month or two. Like, what should we do? And thinking about a lot of different possibilities. But, if you think about them more carefully, they didn't seem very reasonable at the time. But December 23rd, we got the idea, actually, that we would do a museum exhibition. And then after that, it was finding a museum exhibition and also figuring out how to actually accomplish this mission. So I had some relationships at the Museum of Contemporary Art in Los Angeles, which is called MoCA. And the director there is a visionary guy, and he was very interested in trying this out, even though I had really nothing to show because this had not yet been done before. So we did a process. First, it's called volumetric photogrammetry and laser scanning. And that was basically just making sure that you capture every inch of the exhibition exactly the way that it was. Then we would need development on top of it because that's just the environment to make you feel like you're at the museum. However, the environment is useless if you can't do anything with it. You're just going to look at it. So then we we had to do, computer software development to make sure that we're able to provide users some type of experience. Like you can go from painting to painting. You could look at particular paintings. You could hear narration for a particular painting. All of those things was the development part. And then, of course, on November 7th, officially, we launched it. So it took about, let's say, 6 months to complete the project. And then we waited another 4 months before we actually launched it on the Oculus platform. And Oculus is a VR company that's owned by Facebook, for people who don't know.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Now, do you necessarily need a virtual reality headset to enjoy it, or is it best? How do you see it?
Yes, you do need a virtual reality headset to see it. Okay. However, we understood that most people do not yet own it. So we made a version on our website that you could download for free that is compatible with PC or Mac. So since you won't have the VR headgear, so you won't get the whole immersive experience, but you'll still be able to experience it with the PC or Mac version.
I love that. Now, this is interesting to me. This is all new, the whole virtual reality scene. And I remember I'm working for this company in Manhattan as a consultant, and they have a day once a month where they kind of treat their employees to bonuses on Friday. So one day they had a virtual reality team come in where they were going to, what were they doing? Do archery in this kind of fantasy land, like Robin Hood. And they invited me and said, hey, would you like to join us? And I thought, oh, that's kind of silly. I thought it was going to be like a silly game. But it's funny. I heard people laughing and whatever and having the best time ever. I was like, darn, I wish I'd said yes. But I talked to people afterward and they said that it was so weird. You put the headsets on and you actually feel totally immersed, your entire body. It fools your senses into actually believing you're somewhere else. And she said, I was standing on the edge of a cliff and I kind of looked down and I actually felt dizzy. I said, wow. So, I mean, we're not probably where Star Trek is, or we're not anywhere near Star Trek is yet, but you can really get immersed feeling and really have an experience that is quite different than turning on your TV.
Absolutely. It's to some people it's frightening because it's possible and likely that sometime in the not too distant future, it's going to feel so realistic that for many people, or for some people, their virtual reality life will feel more interesting than their actual life.
Wow.
Just like you saw people with the internet who get caught up in chat rooms or get caught up just being online all the time. The same thing, can and will happen with virtual reality because it's going to really make you feel like you're experiencing something real, but it's not.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I see the implications being awesome on a lot of fronts where education-wise, bringing people together that couldn't be together if there are long distances. But I also can see some social implications that could be not so good if people get too intoxicated by it. There was actually a couple of Star Trek episodes where people became addicted to the Star hologram because they just wanted to be inside that virtual reality instead of reality. And I mean, the same thing happens, like you said, with the internet. It's just how to keep things balanced and use the tool to enhance your life, not harpen it and take away from the overall experience of your life.
Yes.
Yeah. So share with me, where do you see this going with VRt Ventures going forward? Where is the future going for you guys?
We really want to make sure that every museum exhibition in the whole planet is captured in virtual reality. It's going to happen. You just don't know when. The interesting thing about museums, and a lot of people don't know, museums lose a lot of money every year.
Really?
Even the Louvre in Paris, the most famous museum in the world, I think that their loss for 2016 was $10 million. And that's the Louvre. So many of these other institutions that you have in your cities, they're not money-making propositions in any way. They're just institutions for our society, which have a really wonderful, incredible mission, because the museum's mission is to preserve our history, all of our history. But they're not really paid attention to. No one thinks too much about the museum. And a museum is only strong as its board of trustees. And the board of trustees is a group of people, usually affluent, who are able to support the museum financially and do so financially to keep it going. So we believe that there is a huge, huge opportunity here for museums all across the planet to be able to capture their museum exhibitions in virtual reality. And of course, we are going to give it free away to schools, to people who need them. But there will be a wonderful opportunity for many people across the planet. What if there's an amazing Andy Warhol exhibition in November coming in at the Whitney Museum in New York? Mm-hmm. And that is the first Andy Warhol retrospective that's been done in decades. I can't even remember. Mm-hmm. And that will only be up for 4 months at the Whitney Museum before it's gone forever. If we capture it, it's going to be available to millions and hundreds of millions and billions of people around the world to eventually see. And we think that's hugely important. Now, if you look at something else, such as like sports grew because of television. Television is the best medium for sports. So it was kind of a perfect marriage. And even in the beginning, these NFL team owners were against putting their games on television for free because they felt that if it's free, then who's going to come to the actual game? 50 years later, we know that they were wrong. Yeah. And of course, the money that they receive from the networks on television are huge, and they dwarf all the revenue that they generate from other parts. Mm-hmm. However, for museum exhibitions, how do you see them? Either you go physically to the museum, or you read that very thick, wonderfully produced book that they make commemorating the museum exhibition. And there's no middle ground. It's like going to a football game in person or reading about it in the newspaper. And those are your only two options. Yeah. So for virtual reality with these museums, it gives them that middle ground that the whole world will be able to have access to it. So that's one of our main goals, is that every museum exhibition out there is captured and every person around the world is able to visit.
Wow, the implications are just so tremendous. I'm beginning to feel over the past several years, I love going to museums for fun. My favorite is Natural History Museum in New York. But I find often when you're thinking of getting together with friends, it's often let's go bowling or let's go to the movies. Not let's go to the museum. And actually the movies today can be more pricey than going to the museum. Do you feel, Jacob, that over the years people have just kind of thought, we don't need to see the graves, they're not that important? How do you feel about that? I'm seeing that your technology could be the catalyst for allowing people to realize how important art is in our lives.
We hope so. I mean, I think that art in general has a bad stigma. I have, close friends. They're very well educated. They're very bright. They don't know much about art, so they don't feel the need to visit museums. In fact, museums make them feel stupid. Or when I ask them about art, a lot of people think art is only for rich people, because the only time you see art in the news is when Salvator Mundi painting by Leonardo da Vinci has sold for $450 million. But it's so much more than that. Art is a medium. Art is the freest expression that you could possibly imagine. There's no words. It's just art. It's something that's created. And all of us human beings have it in ourselves. We all are creators. We all build something. We all have those same things inside. And we really want to get that message out, because art can actually change your life if you just have a little bit of a working knowledge for what it's about. And so we hope that this is kind of the first step. This Kerry James Marshall exhibition was really important to us because Kerry James Marshall was a young boy gifted at drawing pictures, and he had plenty of people who were supporting him along the way. And he went to museums and he realized that no one looks like him because he's African American. And the technology of painting, and painting is a technology, is 600 years old. And if you go to any museum in the world, you normally see European figures, white figures in the paintings. So he never saw black figures anywhere. And he decided at a young age to change that narrative. So when you see Kerry James Marshall's work, almost all of the figures are black for a reason. And there's a very, very deep message there of what he's trying to share.
Wow. I love that on so many points. And it recalls for me, even we used to go to Shakespeare in the Park, which we have here in New York. Another way to experience art in another way, because on the stage where you're seeing the drama of Shakespeare, you have the visual art, you have the acting and experiencing of the story. And you're right. Everyone creates their own art in their lives. I mean, your life is a creation of you're creating your own life. And I think by you bringing this to the world and people experiencing the great artist will begin to open up their heart and mind to the idea of what can I create? How can I get deeper and bring something to the world that is not here, that can make people's lives better, enhance people's lives, and make them happy?
We hope so, very much.
Yeah, absolutely. This is fantastic. Now, how do people get started? They go to your website, share that for them, and then share with them how they even get started with the technology.
Oh, yeah, just to view. I mean, first of all, our website, all you need to do is go to, VRt Ventures.art, and on there's a PC or Mac download for your laptop. And that will give you the VR experience, but for your laptop. So it won't feel like VR, but you'll be able to see what I'm talking about if you download it. If you want to experience the actual virtual reality experience, then for now, you would have to, if you have a Samsung phone, you don't need to buy a Samsung phone. And then the Samsung has a device called the Samsung Gear. And that Gear is a VR device where you download an app called Oculus, Oculus. That's the company owned by Facebook. You download that app, and then you plug it into the Samsung Gear device, and then you download our app, which is called Mocha Carrie James Marshall. MOCA, Carrie James Marshall.
Cool. And just to make sure, now the virtual reality gear, is it super pricey? What is the range?
No, actually, it's changing a lot. I mean, I'm describing something to you because as of last year, this was the most popular device, the Samsung Gear. Mm-hmm. However, I believe that it was already supposed to be launched, but I think there was a little bit of a delay. Mm-hmm. Oculus has announced that the first half of this year, they will be launching something called Oculus Go. And that particular device is like, you don't need a phone insert or anything. You buy this one device. I've been told that it's going to retail at $200. Okay. And then you'll be able to access all of the virtual reality content that's available on that particular platform. You could look at it as a Kindle. You get an Amazon Kindle and you download books onto your Kindle. Mm-hmm. Same thing. You would buy an Oculus Go and then you would download whichever VR apps that you find interesting direct to the device.
I like that you just mentioned that because I'm an avid reader. I love to read. And I told myself for years, I will not read anything that I can't hold in my hands as a book, a paper book. I like the smell of it. I like to open the pages, feel the pages, read them. So I couldn't imagine going to a Kindle. But I get so many books with people coming to interview with us that it became crazy for me to say, send the book in the mail, send the book in the mail. So I finally had to go out and get a Kindle, and it's been tremendous. Now I'm carrying loads of books with me without breaking my back, and I'm really beginning to enjoy it, especially since my eyes are going so I can blow up the words. So, so yet another way that actual tools and technology can enhance our lives, and you don't have to be scared of them. Of course, going to the museum is always fun. You can still do that, but here's yet another way to enjoy it with your whole family. You have a number of kids and you want to take everyone there, and it's a little pricey to get to the museum with parking and with the cost of donations or getting into the museum. Here at VRt Ventures, you're offered the wonderful way to get your whole family in there to view the masters, starting here in California, but all over the world soon. And before we leave, what would be your one advice to any business owner? Let's say they're a technology company like you and they have a great idea. What would be your advice for them getting started?
Gosh, that's very tough. I think business is really, really about timing.
Yes.
And that timing is something that you can't predict. A lot of people have wonderful ideas and terrible timing. And we've been trying our best to navigate, to match that. the timing issue is like, you're always either going to be a little early or a little late. It's really hard in life to have absolutely perfect timing. So with when it comes to virtual reality, when we were analyzing the landscape, we thought, are we early? And we know we're early. Our concern was, are we too early? And we still have that concern because we don't know when this is going to take off. A lot of the statistics say by the year 2020, which is only a couple years from now, 1/3 of American households will own a VR device. That's good. That's very promising. Just like before, I wasn't the person who paid $3,000 for my DVD player. If I remember correctly, I think I paid $120.
Whoa.
So it takes time to get there. And, by the time the DVD players were useless, you can buy them for $20.
That's exactly what
or even less.
Yeah.
But so, I wasn't the last, but I definitely wasn't the first. So every business comes with its own challenges, such as VR or DVDs or whatever it may be. And so right now we're kind of like making sure that we're careful, we're aggressive, because I believe that business, you have to be aggressive. You have to have a strong position on something. You can't be like the wind just floating with whatever it may be. We know for a fact that someday every museum exhibition will be captured in virtual reality for the world to be able to see. We know that for a fact because technology never loses. We're not, of course we still have fax machines and that's not even that old, but they're not really that necessary anymore.
Yeah.
We can do everything. We don't need a fax machine anymore, even though we might use them once in a while. Yeah. So technology always wins. You love those books so much. I love reading as well. And me too. I was a little bit resistant to getting a Kindle. And once I did, it changed my life. Now I don't have to carry around all my books all of the time, or you could buy a new one while you're waiting for your flight to take off, right at the gate. So many things have changed all for the better.
Yeah.
So just knowing that technology is never going to lose and it's all going to catch up, you have to own the technology and you have to like control it and turn it into something useful.
Yes.
There's that famous quote that it's easier to invent the future than to predict it because no one can predict the future. But you do have the ability, everybody, to affect what the future is going to look like in business and other things as well.
Such a great tip and great way to end out our time together. Again, everyone, let them know where they can get their VRt Ventures today and get their headset and everything going today.
Absolutely. Please go to our website, VRtVentures.art. That's VRt Ventures with an S.art. And that at least you'll be able to see the free download. And of course, if you own a Samsung Gear or are interested in getting that device, or you're going to wait for the Oculus Go, which is coming out in not too far away from now, then you'll be able to download our app, which is called Mocha Kerry James Marshall. And that hopefully is the first of many.
That is fabulous. Now, where do you have a newsletter where they can keep up to date as you continue to grow and get new gallery?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Just on their website, if they sign up for the mailing list, then they'll be able to access the...
we want to get people out there. I know how many parents out there want to give this experience to their kids, and now it exists. So all the parents listening in, you want to excite your kids, get them to experience the great artworks of the world. Well, now you can do it. Head on over today to VRtVentures.art. And again, I just have to thank you, Jacob, for coming to Savvy Business Radio this evening.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me today.
Savvy Business Radio broadcasts worldwide via a large podcast network, celebrating business owners, entrepreneurs, influencers, and successful individuals. Find out about our paid sponsorship opportunities or how to become a guest. Call 732-474-7375 or email Christina@savvybusinessradio.com.